Hello and welcome back to Spellhaven, a place where all are welcome, so come on in, let's learn to run D&D together. My name is Jaren, and this is my 2024 Roll20 Crash Course, part number 3. Today we are making some tokens, adding some tokens to our map, and seeing how those interact with the map that we have put down. So if you just found this video haphazardly, starting right in the middle of the playlist, highly recommend go start from scratch, start from the beginning, because we are kind of building on and progressing through things that I talk about as we go forward. So today, taking a look at tokens, we will take a look at making tokens, some tools to do that, importing and setting the permissions for those tokens, and lastly, we're going to wrap it up with making the dynamic lighting work on our map. And last video, I told you I was going to get a little bit of a better map to demonstrate dynamic lighting. So I've gone ahead and done so here in Roll20. You can see all I've done is added a new page, and I've drugged this map onto Roll20 just as we did in the last video. This is a map from a Light of Xerxes custom expansion that I purchased on, I think it was on DM's Guild. This had a bunch of extra quests. I'll put a link to the bundle on DM's Guild in the description. Suffice it to say, this is content that I purchased, so I'm going to use it here in the video. And I've gone ahead and aligned everything to the grid, just as we did in the last video. And to demonstrate and show you that it is, in fact, aligned to the grid, I'll go back up to the pages here. I'll go into settings, and let's show the grid. We'll turn the opacity all the way up. I changed the grid color, the Roll20 grid color, to hot pink, just to show you it is, in fact, lined up. So we see our Roll20 grid is lined up with the map grid. That means when we put tokens down, they're going to snap nicely in place, even if we turn this opacity way down and we only see the map grid. So making tokens is as simple as long as you have the asset that you want to make as a token, just drag it and drop it into Roll20, just like we did with the map, making sure that you are on the tokens layer. Now, tokens layer, we talked about the different layers before. Remember in the last video, with a map layer, it's things that your players can see and you can see, but they can't mess around with it. They can't interact with it. The tokens layer, they can interact with it, especially if once you set the permissions to say, I only want this player to access this token, this one's assigned to this person, so on and so forth. So we're on the tokens layer. How do we actually get tokens if we don't have them? Well, you can make them in whatever art, digital tool that you've got, image editor tool. God, I was lost for the words. The easiest thing for me and the quickest thing, I've even done this in the middle of a game and made a token really quick, is this tool called Token Stamp. I think everybody that uses VTTs probably has used Token Stamp at some point. It's as simple as dragging an image onto the page and making some really, really easy edits, and then right click to save over here on the right. So I'm going to do that really quickly. Let me grab, I think what I wanted to do, let's grab something from Spelljammer, and let's take this image of an NPC called Topola. And what we want to do is we want to drag this and resize it so that we get a nice like headshot. And you can see that it's a transparent image, right? If I go up here and change the background color to something else, you can see it's a little bit transparent. So I want to make this a white background so we don't have to worry about that. And just like in Roll20, you can rotate and change all this stuff if you want to. It doesn't, as long as you get it nice and centered and it looks decent enough, it'll work just fine. This looks good enough for our purposes. And then also, you've got a bunch of different tint options. You can add text to it if you want to. Our border options are up here in the top left. I like this one personally because I think it looks pretty nice. So I am going to go ahead and save that. I might have already actually put it in. Let me just check here. I think I might have made this token already. No, I did not. So let's go ahead and do that. All I got to do is right click Save As. And Roll20 Crash Course, we'll call this Topola. Now we go back to our Roll20, and it's as simple as drag and drop into Roll20. And aha, it's right here, but it's far too big, so we just simply need to scale this down a little bit. And there we go. We've got a token on the page. We can double click on this token, change a bunch of settings. We can rename it. We can give it a nameplate if we want. What's neat about this, you can add whatever name you want to this just to help yourself remember. The only people that can see the actual name are people that have control over it. So maybe you've got an NPC that is actually an enemy, but you don't want players to know that. So maybe you just give it, you can put like BBEG here or something if you wanted to. But I'm gonna make this. This also is helpful for once you start doing initiative stuff, which I'll cover in this video as well. Topo, there we go. The other values here, if you wanted to keep track of like hit points, AC, temp HP, this is kind of where you could do that. I don't use it for that, but it is available. And then just like other assets, we can add tint color to our token if we want to. We have some other options, token aura. For instance, maybe somebody is, they've got a spell cast on them and we want to demonstrate that radius of an aura. We can do that down here. And we can even set it to say players can see it or players cannot see it. This is kind of where we would make these changes. If it's set to not, if this is unchecked, players aren't going to be able to see it. We have toolbar options. We can make a tool BBEG right here. And I think if I remember correctly, if I just save this, yeah, that's right. We have to actually say show. And now I think once this is checked, I can hover over it and it gives me this tooltip. I believe this is only visible to you. I don't think other players can see this, but don't quote me on that. I'm going to take that off. Now, so we have a token on here. How do we actually assign it to players? We're going to go in here and we just double click the token. Under here, we have controlled by. I can select all players if I want to. Usually you don't want to. A person has to be actually assigned to your Roll20 game. They have to have joined the game in order to do that. There's a link once you first load up Roll20 to your games. And if you don't have it, whenever you start Roll20, it should populate on the page. So it's a hidden link in case you happen to be streaming this and you don't want some randoms joining your game. But this, under this thing here, is the link to the Roll20 game. So now you've probably seen the link. You can join this game if you want to, but please don't join the game because this is just for a crash course style video. So getting back into token settings, as long as a player has joined the game, you can assign it. You can assign them control permission to that token. We have some other settings here as well. I don't particularly use the DM notes tab. You could make some notes for yourself here if you wanted to. Maybe you copy and paste a stat block here or something like that. Dynamic lighting is how we make tokens have that nifty little ability to, when you move the token around, the lighting changes. Let's actually first, we need to set up the map so that you can actually use dynamic lighting. Now that we have the token in here, we need to set it up so that lighting actually functions properly. So we'll go up to the page settings once again, go to the dynamic lighting tab and simply toggle it on. Save changes. It is now operational. But just because we have turned dynamic lighting on doesn't mean there's actually lights here. We have to set that up ourselves. Now I want to point out here a really handy shortcut, if you will, and definitely lock this into your brain. This will save you a ton of time. If you want to check from a token's perspective what the lighting looks like, so you can check your work as you go and say, I hope I set this up correctly. Let me see really quickly. You select the token and simply hit Control L. This will view it as the token. You can see since I've not set up dynamic lighting for this token, I don't see anything. We'll click off the token. I think you just hit escape. Maybe it's Control L again. Oh no, what is going on? There we go. Roll20 was being screwy. Normally, once you click off a token, there we go. Just exit preview. So a little fun stuff there. Anyways, we need to go set up the token's dynamic lighting. We don't have it turned on yet. So let's go back into the token settings. Just double click on it. Go over to the dynamic lighting tab. We need to turn on vision. This just means that the token is set up to function with dynamic lighting. we still have not set up any sort of vision yet. So just because we have turned on dynamic lighting doesn't mean it gets to see anything. We can see the token now, but we can't see anything in the room. What I could do here is if I said, well, I know that this character, this particular ancestry has dark vision. So I'm going to set it up to have night vision. And we'll say, let's say 30 feet. And that's it. Now, okay, now something's different. Now that we've set up the dynamic lighting, everything kind of got a little darker. We put night vision, dark vision on the token, and you can see this sort of radius of light around it. And if I hit Control L, we can see that, yes, in fact, there is vision around this token. The problem here kind of is the fact that I can move this token wherever I want to. I can see into rooms, I can see past walls. That doesn't really matter. And the other thing that's sort of a little bit unrealistic is this dark vision is just pure bright light up to a distance, and then it stops. And that's not really how dark vision works. It's still dim light and darkness. It's still black and whites and grays. So one thing that we can do, the way that I like to do this, is there is some night vision effects. If we can go to nocturnal, I think if we go to dimming, we can change where that starts, and we're gonna actually put some tint on it. I like a little bit of a darker tint, so I've changed that here. I've set night vision effect to dimming, and now when we take a look at this token, it's a lot darker. And if we view it, oh sorry, we still were viewing it from the token. Now when we view it, it really has that creepy effect of you don't get to see in bright light. It's still dim. It's still, you can see, but it's like shadows and all that stuff. And it's sort of creepy. You know, you can tell that this continues on, but you kind of have to move your token if you want to see any further. You know, and I really like this setting a lot more. And you can come in here and play around with it. Maybe that's too dark for you, so we'll change to something a little lighter. But the problem here is it's not less intense. It's just a shade of a color. And so you try to use some of these lighter shades, and it just doesn't exactly look right unless you're going for like a fog effect or something like that. So I like to use a little bit of a darker color because that's what it's going to look like anyways. So that is setting up a tokens lighting, and you have to do this for all your character tokens. What I would recommend doing for organization purposes and for saving yourself a ton of time, because often what you're gonna end up doing is creating a new map for each encounter, right? And then you're like, okay, I got to bring my tokens over. I have to reset all these things. I don't remember what's that person's vision. Do they have a lantern? There's so many things to remember. So what you can do, what I recommend doing, is make a page that's just tokens. Set all your settings for those tokens on that page. Then when you need to get them again, go back to that page, select them, copy paste over into the combat page that you're on. And then the settings are all consistent. You don't have to set it up every single time. So do that. Now let's get into, actually real quick, let's just take a look here. If you wanted to, for instance, say a token has a torch or some sort of light source, absolutely can do that. We can say token has we can say that they have a torch. They emit bright light from their person. We'll say 10 feet of bright light, 20 feet, another 10 feet beyond that of dim light. And we can change the brightness here as well. Now, when we take a look at this token, we get to see that, oh yeah, they've got a little bit better vision, despite, you know, with just low dark vision, they can't see all that stuff. So if we come back in just to compare, turn off emitting light, or otherwise carrying a torch or something, or a lantern, we turn that back off, and we are back to just your regular old dark vision. So let's talk about making the dynamic lighting barriers so we can actually draw in and see the fact that, hey, there's doors here and we can't see beyond those doors. How do we go and do that? Well, let's go back to our lighting layer. And just as we did before, this is the part that's kind of time consuming. We go into our light layer. We'll go up to the draw tool, and we want polygon. And I'm using pink once again because for me, pink is walls. And now we have the tedious task of drawing wherever we don't want characters to see beyond. And I'm going to demonstrate really quickly here what happens if I go, okay, I'm going to draw a line that's nice and flush with the edge. And I keep clicking around the border. And let's say, for time's sake, I finish this entire right side as well. And we'll just complete it here. And now, once I view this as the token, okay, well, I see that I can't see beyond this barrier, but I don't really see what the edge looks like. What is this barrier? I don't know what this is. So let's go back out, and you can see the problem with drawing this line at the very edge. So what I need to do, and I want to do this for every single wall that I want to draw a barrier that tokens can't see past, and I'm going to put it a little bit in. So we'll say like here, and this doesn't need to be perfect, but you can be, kind of sloppy with this and it's still going to be fine. Now, if we take a look from the token's perspective, we see, oh, okay, it's the edge of the cave wall. I can see it now, and I know that I can't see beyond it. So now we have that correct. We do the same thing for our doors. If we go back into our lighting layer, just as I accidentally forgot last time, we can actually draw doors and windows with this lighting tool. Not just lights, we can actually draw doors and stuff. Restrict player movement, yes, because we don't want players to be able to move past a door until they actually open it. Oops, I think I did this wrong. So we have these two endpoints. Let's just move them to where the door exists. And real quick, I'm going to draw another wall on the other side of this cave just to demonstrate what this is going to end up looking like. We'll take a look at the token. And now we can see that, yes, there is a barrier past there, and I can't actually move my token past whatever this is. Oh, it's a door. I have to wait for it to open. I can't accidentally sneak by and see what the DM doesn't want me to see. Nope, because we've said that we don't want you to do that. And there is a way you can, if I wanted to do that for these walls, I think all I would need to do is go into the page settings for dynamic lighting. No, maybe it is not there. Or did we already have that set? Was that just by default? Let me take a look here. It might be set up by default. Yeah, walls by default you can't move past. That's good to know. So you don't have to set anything extra to prevent them from moving past walls. We could do the same thing for windows. So for example, let's pretend what we want to be on the lighting layer. Let's pretend that there was a window here. So we'll place a window. Let's make it like right here, and we'll finish drawing some walls. And now once we go back out to the token, we can see that the token can see into this window and see what's inside, but like doors, you can't move past it until the dungeon master or game master changes that property. And that is as simple as just clicking on the token itself and saying, okay, now it's open. And now if we go back in as the token and we have an open window, we should be able to move into it. And similarly for the door, if we say that it's open, tokens can now see through it and move past it. So no longer do you have to draw lines to simulate doors and move them out of the way. They've got these handy clickable and editable, toggleable doors and windows. Really makes it quick and easy and handy. Now, I guess one, I don't want to say problem with this, but because it's not really a problem in our case, because this map happens to have, I want to delete this. It happens to have a door drawn on the map itself. If I wanted to add like a doorway to a hallway where there wasn't one, and I simply used this door tool, I would also probably want to go get an asset like we talked about in the map video and actually show that so that players can see that it is a door. I don't have that problem here because the door is actually drawn on the map, so it's not really a big deal, but something to note and to think about. What else do we have to cover? We've talked about adding walls. We talked about adding windows and doors, giving tokens permissions, how it's good practice to have a tokens page dedicated so that if you're making new combat maps, you don't have to reset all the lighting settings. We talked about if a token has a torch or a light or something like that. And you should also be able to, yeah, you should also be able to do this directionally. So that you can, and you have to play around this to get it exactly right. So that, for instance, if a character is holding a like a hood lantern that has a direction to it, rather than just a regular lantern that is in all directions. I think that's what they're called. But that, I think, should do it for tokens and lighting. The main thing to remember here, well, a couple of points. If you're trying to test out lighting and you go, why can't I control L on this token and see lighting? It might be because you forgot to turn on dynamic lighting on the page. If this is not toggled and you click a token and go control L, well, did I turn this off or not? I thought I did. Maybe I forgot to save. If I control L now, nothing happens. So if you're wondering why it's not working, that might be one reason. You have to make sure that dynamic lighting is enabled for your page. If a player can't see where their token is, they can't see at all, make sure that you have set up dynamic lighting for that token. Not only turn it on, but set whatever vision they have. If they still can't see, maybe you need to ask them, hey, do you actually have dark vision? Are you carrying a torch? Is there any reason you should be able to see? The last thing to remember too, I have not included any light sources in this dungeon, but if there were, we would do the same thing that I started showing on the maps video, where I found an asset that represented a light source, a torch, a lantern, a bonfire even, and then I just used this lighting tool to put it on the lighting layer. I use this lighting tool to place a light. Lights have a default setting. They are default bright light 20 feet, dim light 20 additional feet. So for instance, if there was like a wall sconce with a torch here on the side wall here, and I took a look as the token, we can see it would be here actually, just for fun, just to represent that that light source. Let me actually just draw something really quick. I'm going to draw a little ellipse, a little circle. Sure. Are we going to have some weird issues here? And we'll put this on the map. Just so we can visually see. Oh, it's going to be weird because it's actually an asset rather than... Okay, that's why it's weird. But we can see where the light should be. And we can see that... oh, I know what's going on. I may have made a mistake here because this is an asset that's covering our light source. Okay, heck with that. We just know where it is. It's right here at the corner. So we can see that the light is different because of this light source. Because it is hunched up against a wall, it's not going to show us beyond that, but we can tell that it's different by the fact that if I remove it and go back to our token, oh, it's because I put it on the map layer. That's why it's weird. And go back to our token, we can see that the lighting has been affected by the fact that we put a torch down there. I think that should do it for the video on tokens. Play around with it, see what works for you. Again, I highly recommend making a dedicated tokens page. Just makes your workflow a lot easier and your ability to make a combat map in the middle of a session a lot quicker. Get used to, I would bookmark token stamp so that if you're ever in a bind and need to make a, I don't know, some random token in the middle of a session, quick Google search, hop over to D&D Beyond, grab the official image, upload it to token stamp, and you make a token in a matter of a couple of minutes while you're figuring out your initiative stuff. Lastly, I suppose I'm going to cover, this is weird to kind of cover this in the tokens video, but while I'm thinking about it, because I can't think of a better spot to put it. So we've got these tokens. We're talking about combat. How do I actually use the initiative tracker? And it's as simple as simply right-clicking on a token and saying add turn. Then this will pull up the turn order, but in case you don't know where this is, it is this second from the bottom little icon here. We've got our dice roller and our turn order. And now we see our token, Topola. There she is. Once we hover over this, it's going to highlight which one we're talking about. This is really useful if you've got like 10 goblins on the battlefield and you don't want to give them all unique names. You're just like, okay, Goblin 1, Goblin 2, Goblin 3, or they're just all Goblin. You can hover over this and go, oh, okay, that's which specific Goblin they're talking about or that we're talking about, so I know which one's next. If a player has permission to have control over their token, they then can edit this number themselves. So you don't have to worry about trying to write down numbers yourself and edit them. Once these are input, you can sort them, either just clicking this button here. It should be ascending and descending. And if that doesn't work, you can come into the settings and do that this way. Neat thing about the turn order, if you've got, let's say we're taking a look at, if characters entered this room and there's a hidden enemy that you don't want to reveal yet, it's buried under a pile of rubble, or it's something clinging from the ceiling, or swimming in the depths of this little pond here, and players don't see it yet. If I just want to right-click a token and say, well, I don't want them to see it yet, I'm going to move this over to the GM layer so that they can't see it yet. You can still go into that appropriate layer, right-click, add turn, and then once it comes up on the initiative order, you can see it's sort of grayed out. You can see this. Players cannot see this. So you can roll initiative for all your things that aren't yet in the combat that are going to join at some point, and players don't get to see that they're part of the initiative. Really, really neat feature. So you can do this ahead of time. You can have hidden enemies that you know what their initiative is. Maybe you've got... another trick to this initiative tracker too, if you've got lair actions, for instance, make a token and just call it lair actions. Just put it off to the side. Just remind yourself, oh, I need to remember to do lair actions on initiative 20. It's not a token that does anything. It's just there to remind you. Yeah, I think that's going to do it now. So we've talked about dynamic lighting, tokens, how to make them, how to put them in, how to set lighting, how to set permissions, and how to use tokens with the turn order initiative tracker. I'm getting long-winded. I'm going to stop it there. Thanks for joining. We'll see you in the next and probably last video in this crash course where we talk about my favorite part, adding music to Roll20. Thanks for watching. See you next time.